let's talk about some of these NFL divisional games. And we'll start with last night's game and move backwards. Buffalo beats Baltimore 27-25. And now I know the majority of this talk is going to be about Baltimore, but it's only right that we start with the Bills, right? Kudos to you, Josh Allen and Sean McDermott and Buffalo, for playing the type of game you need to play at this time of year. Mistake-free football. That is a common thread, a common theme that you see throughout football, that you saw it all weekend, and you're going to see it probably tonight in the national championship game as well. And listen, the opposition is going to get there. Just don't help them. Don't help them. And as we saw with the Buccaneers-Commanders game, sometimes it only comes down to one play. And that may not be fair to some people, but that is what happens come playoff time. The margins are very fine. It always comes down to the little things. And again, good for my guy, Dan Gary and Dom, a couple of the best security guards that we have at Emily Arena, and Ray J, big Buffalo fans. But you guys know, watching these games, you could play damn near flawless and still come out on the losing end. Sometimes you just have to play flawless. And we saw two of those performances, both night games, where Buffalo was fantastic, and so was Washington Saturday night. More on that game here in a minute. Can't wait for the game next week, AFC Championship game. Buffalo going into Kansas City. It almost seems right. It almost seems like that is kind of this chapter in Josh Allen's career where, Ariel Helwani, longtime MMA and voice for wrestling and just one of the best journalists out there, said this is kind of like Jordan versus the Pistons in the early 90s. He's got to go through Detroit to come out the other side and to lead the Bulls to the championships. And I feel like it's a very similar scenario here with Josh Allen. I agree with Ariel. In order for you to be able to get over that hump and get to the Super Bowl, you got to beat the Darth Vader. You got to beat Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. It's going to be a great game. I cannot wait. It feels like Buffalo really understands their identity. They know what it takes to be successful. That switch to Joe Brady last year was phenomenal. They focused on running the football. They focused on keeping the ball in Josh Allen's hands in big situations, especially on third down. But look at James Cook. Look at the contributions he's been able to bring to this team. The defenders, the three guys that they didn't have, when you look at Bernard and Milano and Johnson in that game, the first time they played Baltimore, paid dividends in that game last night against the Ravens. And it was just one of those games where you just don't bother me. Leave me alone. This is the game I want to watch. God, man. And it's snowing and it's cold. That's what football is all about. Now, I want to move on to Baltimore. And the big question today and all the rage is who's to blame, right? Is it Mark Andrews for dropping that easy throw for the possible game-tying 2-point conversion, or fumbling earlier in the game? Is it on the defense who gave up 27 points and couldn't come away with one turnover? Is it Lamar Jackson with 2 turnovers himself? Is it a guy like Todd Monken only calling 16 running plays for Derrick Henry and 0 of the 2-point conversions involving him? How about John Harbaugh going for 2 in the third quarter, where if you just kick the point after, you're down 1, and then you could kick another point after at the end of the game there and go into overtime if that's what you want to do? My answer is E. It's all of the above. The whole game didn't have a good feel for Baltimore. For all the good vibes and the playoff win last week, they were just not running like a well-oiled machine. And I know today it's so weird how people want to absolve Lamar Jackson from blame for this game. I'm sorry. He is a big reason why they lost the game. Now, it's not taking away anything he did at the end of the game to put him in a position to tie it. But that interception, it cannot happen. That fumble, I know the snap was errant, but he was able to corral the ball, and he fumbled it. You're an MVP. At this time of year, you can't afford to make one mistake, let alone 2. And I know, again, people are going to say that's unfair, but that is the way this works. When the teams are so evenly matched, and you got a guy on the other side in Josh Allen, whether you are a Josh Allen guy or Lamar Jackson, regardless, but you know who's on the other side. You know you're talking about an MVP caliber player, a guy that can put the team on his back and can push the ball down the field and beat you with his arm, beat you with his legs. You can't afford to make any mistakes. Lamar made 2. Okay, they didn't happen at the end of the game, but they still happened. You give the ball back to Buffalo. They go down and score a touchdown. I'm sorry. Those are on Lamar. Now, you could look at the end of the game and say, hey, part of this blame is on Mark Andrews. You'd be right with that assessment. There's nothing wrong in placing the blame on multiple people. And, Dan Orlovsky, a guy on ESPN who does a really good job, and he's very thorough in his research and his explanation. And he goes on Twitter last night and he's talking about, like, respectfully, you're a loser if you blame Lamar. I'm sorry, Dan. No, I'm not. Just because you have an opinion doesn't mean you're a loser. Just because you think Lamar Jackson is partially to blame, or maybe even the most to blame, doesn't mean you're a loser, and it doesn't mean you're hating. Because I love Lamar Jackson. I think he's a great quarterback. I think he's great for the game. I think he's a phenomenal player to watch. But in these last 2 postseasons, he didn't use his legs enough against Kansas City in the AFC Championship game. He wanted to prove he was a pocket passer. And then in this game against Buffalo, he turned the football over 2 times. You want to blame Andrews more than Jackson? Fine, that's your prerogative. But the whole reason why they were behind and having to go down the field, Lamar was a big part of that. And you look at the other side, Josh Allen did not make those mistakes. That's why he moves on to Kansas City, and that's why Lamar next week is going to be watching at home from his couch. And that's part of his legacy. Unfortunately for him, multiple MVPs, right? He's still got many years in front of him, but up till now, he has not played his best when the lights are the brightest. When his team has needed him, he has not risen to the occasion. In moments, yes, of course, he's fantastic. Do I think he will do it one day? Absolutely. He's going to have to figure it out. But up until now, it's been primarily regular season success for Lamar Jackson. And he's fallen short come postseason time. And I don't think that's earth-shattering news. I don't think that's hating on Lamar Jackson. I think he'll tell you, we got to take care of the football. Yeah, he's probably talking about Mark Andrews, which he would be right in doing so, because he's also calling himself out. And that's why I like that he takes accountability. He knows that it's not just on Mark Andrews, it's him too. But for all this divisive narrative of like, oh, it wasn't Lamar. It was Lamar. He was part of it. I don't like that they only ran the ball 16 times with Derrick Henry. This is a guy that literally changed your offense. Put your offense in a position where that you're so dominant that Buffalo was on their heels. Even the touchdown drives that they scored on, it was just kind of like came in the flow. Like, I didn't look at Baltimore. I was like, wow, Buffalo's in trouble. How are they ever going to stop these guys? It was all right. That was a punch, counter punch coming back. I didn't like the way that Baltimore looked. And then John Harbaugh got interviewed at halftime, like, oh, we're just going to run the football. We're going to score points. We're going to win this game. Like, I don't know. You trying to convince us or you? I just didn't see it yesterday. Buffalo was ready for everything. They were ready for everything, and they won that game. This is why you get home field advantage. How much of that played into the whole situation? Who knows? But what we do know is that Buffalo's going on. Baltimore's going home. And for all the divisive narrative about Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen, look who Josh Allen ran over to after the game. First person. He ran in the total opposite direction of where everybody was. Why? To go say what up to Lamar Jackson. Those guys are going to be linked. Those are 2 of the greatest quarterbacks of this generation. I do think eventually both of them will win a Super Bowl. But as of now, they got to go through each other. They got to go through Mahomes. Other years, they're going to have to go through guys like Joe Burrow. Like that. That's the nature of the beast. It's not easy. But when you're the quarterback, just like when you're the head coach, you got to wear it. You got to wear it. Yes, Lamar Jackson was a huge reason why they were able to come back and almost tie that game. But the reason why they were behind, Lamar has to wear that as well. He'll be back. So will the Ravens. First game on Sunday, Eagles and Rams with Philly coming out on top 28-22. I picked Philly because of Saquon Barkley, and he did it again. I was like, no way, 200 yards. That's why I picked them, because even if he had 120, 130 yards, I still thought they were going to win. Well, Saquon says, okay, I'm still going to hit home runs, grand slams, 205 yards. Giants fans look away. That had to have hurt watching that game. That game was just fun to watch because you're watching the field change as the game goes on and the snow comes in. You can tell it's cold. Start seeing flurries. You look away from the TV, feel the grass is green. You look away from the TV. Oh, look, there's a bunch of snow on the ground. It was great. I love that. And I thought both teams played their ass off. The Rams battled, man. They really did. They came up just a little bit short. They were driving down the field to possibly tie the game. But that pass rush, Jalen Carter, and that just players on defense stepped up for the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, you just look at how many different guys were able to step up in that game. Nakobe Dean, you lose him in the wild card round, right? Big deal? No, because a guy like Oren Burks comes in and he was all over the place. He was fantastic. Him and Zach Bond at the linebacker position. You had Jalen Carter dominating the line of scrimmage. This is part of the reason why people were like, how, and I know he had his off-field transgressions, but this is part of the reason why people were shaking their head when Philadelphia was able to pick him up a couple years ago in the draft out of Georgia. Oh, yeah, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who is a pain in the ass to everybody who's on the opposition. He just continues to make plays, and he loves running his mouth. But hey, you know, to the winner goes the spoils. To the victor goes the spoils. Darius Slay turned back the clock. Veteran corner with 3 pass breakups. So you tip your hat to Philadelphia. They did what they had to do, and that was a great example of home field advantage paying off. But there's one thing that I took away from this game that it gave me a little pause, because I am one of those believers. I was on radio in Philadelphia earlier this year, and they were asking me about my opinions of Jalen Hurts. And I think Jalen Hurts is a damn good quarterback. I really do. But there was something off with Jalen Hurts yesterday. I don't know what it was. Whether it was Devontae Smith not getting involved, A.J. Brown not getting involved. You know, you look at that, you can look at it two ways. One, they were able to win the game without utilizing those two guys because of how good Saquon was. But you can look at it the other way, going, well, if another team has a better game plan, is able to stop Saquon Barkley, is Jalen Hurts going to make enough plays in the passing game to lead Philadelphia to victory? Because he cannot afford to make mistakes. So we'll see. I mean, that's something to keep a close eye on as we inch closer to the NFC Championship game. What kind of impact is the Philadelphia passing game going to have as the Eagles take on the Commanders? And speaking of the Commanders, the biggest upset of the weekend as Washington goes into Detroit and stuns the Lions 45-31. To think that they won is one thing. To know that they won by 2 scores, tip your hat. Tip your hat. We saw the same thing. It was almost like, all right, we saw kind of the first version of what Washington and Jayden Daniels and Dan Quinn can do against the Bucs. Well, they took it up another notch against the Detroit Lions. They were aggressive, going for it on 4th down, and the key focal point of the entire weekend, no turnovers from the rookie Jayden Daniels and the Commanders. You can't look at some of these other quarterbacks that have more tenure than Jayden Daniels and go, oh, it's okay if you turn the football over. No, it's not. It's not this time of year. It's only one game. This isn't best of 7. I love the game plan from Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury, Jayden Daniels, everyone. One voice. Be aggressive, be smart, take care of the football. They ran the football over 40 times. They knew where their bread was going to be buttered. They knew that they had to keep Detroit's offense off the field. They were very, very intelligent with how they played that game. I was thoroughly impressed from what I saw from Washington. Mistake-free football. You can't afford to give away free possessions. You can't afford to give away momentum, especially when you're on the road. I don't even want to say for a rookie quarterback anymore, because he's not a rookie. Played all the regular season games. Now he's won 2 playoff games on the road. I mean, you're talking about a guy in Jayden Daniels. He's in the conversation for, one of the best young quarterbacks in the game. And think about this matchup coming up with Philly, and we'll preview it later on this week. Weather be damned. Philadelphia be damned. Jayden Daniels taking care of the football and using his legs. It's going to be tough to bet against those guys, even on the road, because they've already proven, and I know it was at home, that they could beat Philly this year. They split the season series. That's the Washington quarterback. Let's talk about the Detroit quarterback. Jared Goff with 2 INTs and a fumble. I just don't see how the Lions can win a Super Bowl with him as their quarterback. And I know that may be a bold statement, but this is a new era. It's 2025. I mean, look at all 4 quarterbacks that are left. You got Mahomes, you got Allen, you got Jayden Daniels, you got Jalen Hurts. I mean, the traditional pocket passer is dead. He's dead. It's hard enough to win a Super Bowl. But if you don't have a guy that can evade pressure or be able to make throws off platform, making throws on the run, make plays when everything else breaks down, you're screwed. It's not just about sacks. It's about being able to throw on the move. And I look at Jared Goff. I look at Matthew Stafford. Listen, Stafford wasn't 100%, but he's a traditional pocket passer. But is it going to get easier for him as the years go on? I don't think so. We remember him in Detroit. We remember him when they won the Super Bowl, where if he had to run for a yard or two or 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, he was able to do it. I don't know if Matthew Stafford can do that anymore. Look at how guys like Jared Goff, look at how guys like Tua, guys like that are more traditional pocket passers, when things break down, when they have to go through multiple reads, when they get a little bit of pressure, it just breaks down for them. You need to have some semblance of athletic quarterback or some threat of the run to be competitive. And I don't think that is a flash in the pan. I don't think that's something that's the exception. I think it's going to become the rule, because you're seeing Patrick Mahomes every single week be incredibly accurate with his arm, but also the decision-making of when to get outside the pocket and use his legs. His decision-making is second to none. And you look at Jayden Daniels, right? Now, it doesn't mean athletic quarterbacks aren't going to make mistakes, because we know that just comes with the territory. That comes with the nature of the position. But part of the reason why Jayden Daniels has done such a great job the last 2 weeks in not turning the football over, facing a Todd Bowles defense and an Aaron Glenn defense, is because he's been able to use his legs, evade some of that pressure, run for a first down, even just get outside the pocket and throw the football away. Get outside the pocket, still be able to find somebody down the middle of the field. Sidebar, side note, that Todd Bowles defense doesn't look all that bad after what we saw Saturday night, huh? Everybody was talking, oh, yeah, 23 points, Jayden Daniels, myself included, 8 for 15, couldn't get off the field, and I still think they could have done a better job. But when you think about it, they didn't give up 45. Everybody talking about Aaron Glenn, this mastermind, and all the things that he can do, and a possible head coaching candidate. Good for him. I think he's going to do a great job, because I think not only is he a good defensive coach, he's a good leader of men. But I think that should keep you in perspective of the job that Todd Bowles and that Buccaneers defense did with that bend but don't break mindset. And Detroit, listen, I think they're in the same position now that the Eagles were in 2 years ago. And I know the Eagles went to the Super Bowl and Detroit didn't, but you're looking at two teams, phenomenal regular seasons. And Philly 2 years ago lost both of their coordinators. They lost Shane Steichen on the offensive side, and then they lost Jonathan Gannon on the defensive side. And last year was a dumpster fire for Philadelphia. They started out hot, and then it just pooped all over themselves down the stretch. And the Bucs smacked them in the first round of the playoffs. Until this year, they got Kellen Moore on the offensive side and Vic Fangio on the defensive side. The importance of coaching. I know coaching can be overblown sometimes, but the importance of having the right coordinators in there to put your players in a position to succeed cannot be overstated. Not at all. So for Detroit, where it looks like Aaron Glenn's going to be going somewhere, Ben Johnson's going to be going somewhere. If I'm Detroit fans, I'm a little worried, because you know what? Jared Goff is getting older. He's not getting any younger. And Ben Johnson and all the trick plays and the way that he's been able to utilize all of his players and put Jared Goff in a position to succeed, there's no guarantee that the next offensive coordinator is going to be able to do that. Something to keep an eye on moving forward. And we'll finish with the cheating ass Chiefs. I'm not getting as bent out of shape as a lot of people are, man. That's all. That's cheating ass Chiefs. That's on you. That's not me. The memes with Kansas City and the refs kind of swapping jerseys post game, they don't stop come playoff time, do they? To be fair, it's like this for every dynasty in the past, 20, 30 years in all the sports. MJ got every call, didn't he? Shaq and Kobe, right? Derek Jeter and the Yankees had the umpires in their pockets in the late 90s. Oh, yeah. How about Tom Brady and the Patriots? You want to talk about being tight? Tom Brady and the refs were tight, even tighter than Mahomes and the Zebras. I'm not saying that it's right? I'm just saying that we've seen this before, and it shouldn't be a surprise. Mahomes falling out of bounds, right? Like the worst League Two French soccer player and flopping and begging for a red card. Not a good look, bud. Not a good look at all. And tweet of the weekend from Taylor Twellman, U.S. men's soccer. You hear him a lot come Copa America time and World Cup time. Check out his tweet. People complaining about soccer flop, and then you got that from Patrick Mahomes. With all that being said, I get it. I understand. But Houston was too, right? Kaimi Fairbairn, one of my favorite kickers. I love that dude. He makes a lot of big kicks, but he was not even close on some of those kicks. Not even close. He looked like most of your golf shots out there. Just like those things, they needed the GPS because they were so far off a target. Their location was jacked up. 2 missed field goals, missed point after, and those kind of things are deflating. On one of the touchdown where he missed the point after, the camera went right to D'Amico Ryans on the sidelines, and you could just see it on his face. He couldn't hide it. He couldn't hide it. Those missed kicks are deflating, and that's what happens come playoff time. It doesn't matter where the mistake comes from, and you could take a deep dive into who's to blame. Who's to blame? Was it Liam Cohen? Was it Baker Mayfield? Was it Jalen McMillan for that muffed handoff? It doesn't matter. That shit don't matter. What matters is the Buccaneers turned the football over. Washington was able to get control. They scored a touchdown. They went on to win the game eventually. It doesn't matter if it's Lamar Jackson. Doesn't matter if it's Mark Andrews or Todd Monken or John Harbaugh. The Ravens made too many mistakes to win that football game. Same thing with Houston. And it doesn't stop with Kaimi Fairbairn. And it doesn't start with, or it may start, but it doesn't stop with Patrick Mahomes and the referees. You guys left Travis Kelce wide open. Wide open. You would have thought that Taylor Swift's security was on the field protecting Travis Kelce. 8 targets, 7 catches, 117 yards and a touchdown. Some of those plays, especially on third down, he was wide open. You know that the number one option for Patrick Mahomes is Travis Kelce. There has never been a better combination than those two guys. I'm going to say it right here. Better than Montana and Rice. Better than Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski. And the reason why I'm saying that is because Travis Kelce playing so close to the line of scrimmage, it's so effective that he doesn't have to beat his man one-on-one. There's a little bit of a deception there. Sometimes he stays in the block, and you can tell that the Houston defense, they just let their guard down just a little bit, and they're screwed. They know what's coming, and they still can't stop it. Still can't stop it. Tyreek Hill's gone. He's been gone for years, and people are saying, yep, that combination is really going to really hurt. That combination is really going to take a dip now that Tyreek's gone. That's not what I've seen. All I see is a 35-year-old tight end continuing to ball out. And he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He blocks, he makes plays, he makes contested catches. He knows when to break off his route and make himself available for Patrick Mahomes. And then let's not forget 8 sacks on C.J. Stroud. 8 sacks. That offensive line should be ashamed of itself because it might have been more if C.J. Stroud wasn't able to evade some of that pressure. We speak so much about the Kansas City Chiefs and what they're good at, and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and their relationship with the referees. And we just mentioned Travis Kelce. How about Kareem Hunt? What a great signing that was for them in the middle of the season. 1 year, $1 million. Led the team in rushing yesterday or Saturday. But I want to talk about the defensive line. 8 sacks. I don't care who it is. Steve Spagnuolo finds a way to put those guys in a position where they're going to be successful. And it dates back to his days with the Giants, that NASCAR package, putting 4 defensive ends on the line of scrimmage at the same time against Tom Brady and the Patriots, the undefeated Patriots in the Super Bowl. I mean, you think about it. If Spags wins another Super Bowl this year, that's 5. I don't know. I don't think there's any assistant coaches in the Hall of Fame, but I think Steve Spagnuolo is one of those guys. Might earn some consideration down the road because they had 8 sacks yesterday against a pretty good mobile quarterback, and only one of them came from Chris Jones. 3 from George Karlaftis on the outside. And even when Chris Jones is on the sideline, and there was a picture of him yesterday just out of breath, and it didn't even matter. Didn't even matter because the defensive line finds a way. That's what good teams do. They find a way. And that's something that you see with, I look at a team like Philadelphia and I look at a team like Kansas City. Even if guys go down, even if guys get injured and they get banged up, other players on the defensive side of the ball step up. I mentioned Nakobe Dean going down. Nobody thought Oren Burks was going to play a big factor in that game. That's exactly what he's able to do. Good teams have good players step up in big moments, and that's why